quorum? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Okay, we'll call the Tremont Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, June 8th to order at 6:04. Roll call and please respond there. We have Lawson Wilson Jr.
Yes, Junior
Okay.
here.
Marjorie Buck,
Here.
Jeff Young,
Here.
myself, Mark Good, and we have CEO Jesse Dunbar and Recording Secretary Jan Sprague, and members of the public, it looks like, as well. So I don't think we need to excuse Brett. Hopefully he'll join us. And let's go adoption of the agenda or adjustment. You think we're okay on that? I think we're fine.
Seems good to me.
Okay. Minutes of May 25th, 2021.
I move that they be approved.
I second.
Okay, I did see two things,
Uh-oh.
minor little things. Page 3, 8 under other. Motion by planning board member Jeff Young for Mr. Dunbar to forward copies of all letters from Tremont residents to present to the comprehensive plan committee. I thought that was amended to be just the letters. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread it. Never mind. Okay, I misread it. It was Tremont residents. Okay. I was thinking it was all letters. Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Well-
But the other thing was confirm. There's a typo there. It's the I and R was mixed in number 9.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it is worth just pointing out, Mark, that there are 2 motions under item 8,
Yes,
and that all letters are going to the select board,
right.
and only letters from Tremont residents
Right,
are going to
right.
the comprehensive plan. So,
I do
Yeah.
understand that, but
okay.
I was wrong.
Okay,
When I looked at it, I didn't see all letters. I just saw all letters. I didn't see Tremont residents, so
got it.
we're
Yep.
we're okay there.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second on the table with that typo being fixed. All in favor? Lawson,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Marjorie? Marjorie? Unmute yourself, please.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, Kevin was screwing. So,
No, his meeting was last night. This is your meeting.
and a yes for me too on that. Okay, unanimous. New business, planning board application, site plan review, town of Tremont paving, existing gravel area in front of salt and sand shed and the north entrance, more than 2,500 square feet. Jesse, I have a quick question about that.
Yep.
Before we go on. This was discussed last night at the selectmen's meeting and I didn't stick around for it, but I did notice in the manager's memo that Chris said there wasn't money to pay for all this whole project.
That's correct. For this fiscal year, there won't be enough for the entire project when the bid came in.
So we're only looking at the paving in front of the salt sand shed, correct?
That's all that's going to be completed in this fiscal year, yes.
So my question is, should we be considering the application we have before us, which or not?
I mean, I don't see a problem with it because where the timing is, it may lapse into being under the time frame for this approval when the second portion gets done. But if not, then we may have to go through it again, or if the ordinance is amended to remove paving below a certain amount, then it wouldn't be subject to the planning board anyways.
Board members, any thoughts on this?
I have no problem approving it all at this point.
Me too. I'm inclined to sort of review the whole thing and assuming it all makes sense, approving the whole thing, and then if the town needs to wait 6 months or a year, they can do so. And I don't know, if it goes past the point where they need the substantial completion, then we can give them an extension like we did at Acadia Wilderness Lodge.
Substantial completion would be 2 years, so we should be within.
Okay, and of course, we're just reviewing this for completion right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I did have one other question. I did see that Greg was in the memo that Greg Johnston was going to look at the subgrade and approve the grading before the paving.
Yes, when the contractor comes out, they're gonna dig some test holes so the engineer can check the subgrade of what's existing there before it gets paved over.
Okay. The concern I have is paving that. DEP is already concerned that the groundwater could be contaminated
Mhm.
with the gravel surface.
Yep.
We pave it, that contamination is just gonna go somewhere else. And water quality in that neighborhood is already bad. We
Yep.
know that people along Harbor Drive, Al's Garage, and those people across the street already have salt, high levels of sodium in their wells. In fact, that one guy who's on the abutters list can't even water his garden with his well water because it kills the plants.
Yep.
So can we have Greg also, we don't really have a stormwater calculations or
Correct.
anything. Can we have Greg look at that and make sure that it's not going to just go contaminate somewhere else?
Yeah, we could, I mean, you could request that. The ground is pretty significantly sloped down towards the Public Works garage, and there are two existing catch basins.
I did see that.
So at this point, it's everybody's expectation that it would flow down into those catch basins and out.
And where do they go?
They go out along the side of the north entrance into the ditch along Tremont Road.
And
And
then
does-
where?
Into the ocean, presumably.
Well, the ditch alongside, you mean on the Harbor Drive side or?
Right at the mouth of the north entrance in that area.
Okay, so.
So that probably
basic-
goes up to the marsh or down to the marsh.
And
Probably
also,
across, yeah.
and also has the potential for further contaminating the people that are already suffering with salt in their
Mhm.
wells, correct?
To my understanding, they're suffering from a lot of things in their wells. From
We know the landfill is, but I don't think the landfill is going that way. It's my understanding the landfill's always been more like Hanson's on down through Flatiron and that way.
yeah, there's a map in Chris's office that shows the wells that we paid for the water filters on.
I remember covering meetings about this salt problem and water quality problems there years ago, and it seems
Yeah.
like at one time the MDOT had a salt sand storage area or pile there alongside Route 102.
Yeah, I believe near
And
the, yeah.
That was one possible cause.
Mhm.
So, okay.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, where was that pile? It was on 102?
It
Yeah,
was near the north entrance to the town
Oh,
office.
okay,
the
okay,
area.
right there.
It might have
Yep.
been like around Al's Gordius Garage or maybe down a little closer to the bridge was my understanding. Is that
I
possible?
think it was closer to the Public Works garage.
Okay,
Our
Okay.
north entrance was the entrance to that DOT site, I believe.
okay. Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, folks, you ready?
Ready.
Of course, we only need a motion at the end whether to find this complete or incomplete. A fully executed, by the way, Jesse, there's a typo though, a fully for executed. So I don't know if all these
Oh.
specialists have that. You may want to
Probably it's in
delete
the,
that. Yeah, that's what I
form.
figured. A fully executed and signed copy of the application for site plan review. We have that, right?
Yep.
Evidence of payment of the application waived. My question is, why is it being waived?
Because the town doesn't pay for its own applications. It'd just be paying itself.
Right, but how about, this is for site plan review?
Right. But
How
it's
about, how
paid
about,
town.
how about the technical review fee?
They don't have to do that.
Where does it say that in the ordinance? It doesn't.
It doesn't, but it,
Oh, I understand where
really
you're
pay
going.
itself.
It's just, I'm just concerned about giving town breaks that we don't give other people, okay?
I can check with Chris and see if we want to cut ourselves a check.
Well, we may not use it, so. Or. What do you think about that, folks?
I think they get perks.
I wouldn't call it a perk. It seems to me like it's an
No,
accounting,
don't call it
an accounting convenience or whatever that,
Be redundant to,
yeah,
Yeah.
we're saving I guess probably the town clerk, whoever like manages the checks and books.
bookkeeper.
I think we
Saving a
shouldn't be
little bit.
spending time on this.
What's that, Jeff?
I think we shouldn't be spending time on this, that we should waive it and move it along.
Okay, good enough. I just have that concern, sorry, had to bring it up. 1 original and 9 copies of written materials plus 1 original and 9 sets of maps. Maps or drawings must be at scale sufficient to allow review of items listed under approval standards, but in no case greater than 1 inch equals 100 feet. And what you provided us with, Jesse, are these satellite images, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a scale somewhere here?
Yeah,
bottom.
bottom right-hand corner.
Bottom right. There's a couple different ones. Some are zoomed in.
Okay, so we're okay there. Good. Record owner's name, address, phone number, applicant's name, address, and phone number. We've got that. We know where to find you guys anyway. If you,
Yep.
location of all required building setbacks, yards, and buffers. We okay with that, folks?
Yep.
Names and addresses of all property owners within 500 feet of any and all property boundaries.
Got that.
So 2, sketch map showing general location of the site within the town based on tax map. Actually, there's a copy of the tax map,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We got that.
Boundaries of all contiguous property under total or partial control of the owner or applicant, regardless of whether all or part is being developed. Got that? Everybody all set? with
Yeah,
That one? Okay. The tax map and lot number of the parcel or parcels on which the project is located.
I'm sorry, but on the tax map, is the little letter T, does that mean town owned?
It does, yes.
So it's just lots 39 and 35 in addition to 33.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, that's clear. I just want to make sure I'm reading that correctly. I'm good.
Copy of the deed to the property, an option to purchase the property or other document to demonstrate right, title, or interest. We have the deed in the packet, correct?
Can I go back and ask a question when we passed over?
Yep.
Sure. Did we
I'm-
pass over something?
No, I'm sorry, when we already approved. I have one question about the scale on these. Have these
Yep.
been reduced for us?
Okay.
Or are these what's been filed?
These are the originals. I don't have a larger one.
So how do you get the scale on these? And the reason I ask is if I measure the size of the office building
Yep.
in the 100-foot scale, and I measure it in the 200-foot scale, it's the same size. Is that logical? Am I missing something? If I measure the size of the building on 100 foot, it's like 1.25 inches. You go across the
Mhm.
building. And if I measured on the 200 thing, it's 1.25 inches.
Yeah, that's definitely a typo. Good catch.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
don't
the typo
type
is.
on, Google automatically puts the scale on it.
Yeah, but if you, yeah, that is
Yeah.
interesting. If you look at the photos, all the buildings are the same size.
Yeah.
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 I'm not a surveyor. I have this little blue ruler I was measuring it with. It looked odd.
Right. I was just looking at, yeah, I didn't even flip between the 200 and the 100 foot.
Yeah, the
version.
4 and 3 change, but the 200. If I had to guess, because it changes as you zoom in and out, and I'm guessing it's probably like 1 click between those two. But Google automatically puts them on there.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm not going to vote no on it or anything, but it is, I
Yeah.
think, be careful in the future on whether the scale is accurate. Or, I mean, photos are better than anything else, but to
Yeah.
say the scale works, it doesn't really work too well.
Yeah.
Jesse, did you do this application too? Put this together?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it seems to me like the 200 and the 100 foot images are the exact same image,
Yeah.
except the scale is labeled. So anyway, yeah, we'll just circle that and recognize that we shouldn't
Yep.
we shouldn't assume that those measurements are correct. And I guess it then calls into question the scale for every other drawing too, because we don't know which ones are right or wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So you think we're okay with that?
I'm okay with it. I just wanted to point out,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, where am I? We did deed, name, registration number, and seal of the person who prepared the plan if applicable. It's not because Jesse doesn't have a seal. Evidence of the
Unless you want me to notarize it.
You're a notary too now, huh?
Yes.
You can do it all.
marriages are coming up.
Evidence of the applicant's technical and financial capability to carry out the project as proposed.
Governments have very deep pockets. They're called taxpayers.
Well, apparently they don't because they can't pay for the whole project. Not applicable, it says. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Zoning classifications, residential business zone, it's on the plan. Bearings and length of all property lines to be developed and the source of this information. On the plan, the source is town records and deeds. According to Jesse. We okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Location and size of any existing septic and well, culverts and other culverts and drains, underground tanks. Which one is this on, Jesse? Just
300 foot and no, the 100 foot would show it. Existing features zoomed in.
there's no fuel tanks or anything there.
Nope.
Folks, we okay?
Yep.
Okay. Location, names, and present width of existing streets and rights of way within or adjacent to the proposed development. We've got that on the plan. Also, we have it on the tax map itself, right?
Yep.
Location and dimensions and elevations of all existing buildings on the site.
Yep.
It showed on the proposed paving plan. Which one is that, Jesse?
You can see it best on the 200 foot.
200 foot. has the elevations.
Oh, okay, yep. We all set there?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. Location and dimensions of existing driveways, parking and loading areas, walkways and sidewalks on or immediately adjacent to the site. That's on the plan too. Or on the photos. Location of intersecting roads or driveways within 200 feet of site. It's on the plan. Well, Jesse, is that on the tax map or on the? Oh, it's on the 400
Yeah, it'd be on the
feet one.
proposed.
Okay, property
Yeah.
boundary line plan. Okay,
Yeah.
I see it. Yep. Thank you. Ward, you okay with that?
Wait a minute, which,
Yep.
are we using the tax map 14 for answering that question?
No, there's one of the Google Earth ones, Tremont Town Office paving property boundary line plan, 400 feet. It's,
Yeah,
you see it?
so we got Harbor Drive mentioned, we have Flatiron. Are the other one referring to as 102? Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
You okay with that?
yep.
Yep.
Lawson? Yep.
Yes.
Where'd Marjorie go? Yeah, there she
Yes.
is. Okay, you okay, Marjorie? Yep. Everybody's moving around here. The location and open drainage courses, wetlands, stone walls, graveyards, fences, stand of trees, and other important features.
This one I didn't really, I felt since it was a photograph, I didn't really need to label existing trees and such things, but I can if you would prefer that.
Well, the solar array is well marked and
Yep.
About wetlands though.
well, it does have the marsh and everything on the back.
Yeah, but the marsh isn't on town property. There are no wetlands on the town property or,
No.
oh, no, it does go down to the marsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes all the way
Yeah,
back.
yeah, that's right, because like the walking trail goes back there.
There's no wetland on the town portion.
But we abut the marsh back there
Yeah.
on the rear lot.
Yep.
But not on the, where we're gonna get paved.
Well, that shows, yeah, that's
Yeah.
shown, and that's what we're trying to determine. Open drainage courses.
It shows I just saw some, yeah, existing drainage ditch on the zoomed version, the 200-foot scale version.
Okay, yep, I see that now.
Yeah,
Yep.
And it shows existing storm drains too, which is useful.
in the locations.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
Does the existing drainage ditches that are shown, there's no indication of direction of drainage. Do we need that?
Well, I think that sort of gets to Mark's earlier question
I
about
know.
having Greg or somebody do a little bit more stormwater analysis. And I think that either here or under the proposed development activity, when we talk about stormwater, we might put a
Yeah.
little asterisk there.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I am concerned, we do have a marsh bordering us in the back, and I want to know, are we draining towards it or away from it? And I think I know, but the plan should tell me.
Well, right. And it, at least on mine, it looks like, well, I don't know. I can't quite tell, Jesse, if you did this in a Sharpie after you printed it or before you printed it, but there's on the 100-foot version, you are showing some drainage lines,
Yep.
but we know that, I mean, we're right next to the marsh. It's all going to end up in the marsh eventually,
At some
unless it
point.
goes straight down into the aquifer.
Yep.
And I don't think that question is fully answered yet, so.
Yep.
You're saying on the 100-foot one, okay, we also have the same thing on the 200-foot one.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah, okay.
On the legend on the 200-foot one, we should say the black arrows indicate drainage direction. Otherwise, to tell you the truth, when I looked at it, I thought it was traffic pattern.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It's not, right, I was jumping to a conclusion, not reading the
Yes.
drawing. Yeah.
Yep.
It does say existing surface water drainage. It's written on the
Yeah,
photo there,
okay,
right?
yep. But it also says existing storm drain right next to one of the black arrows, at least on my drawing, so.
Add it to the legend.
It
Yeah,
just had the legend.
yeah.
So do we find this condition's been met or not?
Maybe
Okay.
this, I don't know, at some point we should have some condition that's not met, and maybe this is the right one.
Well,
When they expect it?
I'm willing to say it's met if we have an acknowledgement from the applicant that he'll so indicate on the final plan going in. So as long as I have a commitment from the applicant, I tell me if that's the wrong thing to do. But I think-
No, that seems to make sense to sort of, or I guess we could approve the whole thing with a
Conditional,
condition.
complete
uh,
conditional.
That's fine too.
Right.
Yep.
Jeff, I'm sorry, you broke up and I couldn't quite understand what you said.
I wasn't that sad when I broke up, but what I was saying is,
Breaking up's hard to do, you know?
yeah, I know. Well, I was saying, as long as we have a commitment from the applicant to amend the plan to indicate what the arrows are for, and then Lawson came back and said, well, we could just make it subject to these conditions of doing it. Either one's fine with me.
Okay. Jesse, when do you think this paving is going to be done?
The goal was to have it done at some point when they're paving those road projects that were approved in the area. There'll be sometime this summer.
Okay,
Definite start for the road work.
because we still have to have a public hearing and everything, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we're all set there. Make a note of that.
Yep.
Which one was that? 83I,
Yes,
correct? Okay. The location, front view, dimensions and lighting of existing signs. Not applicable, Jesse says.
I do have the location on there, but
There is a sign, right? The town office sign.
Yep.
And that's on there, correct?
Yep.
So instead of not applicable, we should find it met.
if you want, I didn't include the front view of it, but
well, if the application doesn't, what's being applied for doesn't require a sign,
right,
we need to consider it.
right. That's why I put it as,
Not applicable.
I would say it's not applicable.
Okay,
If
Good enough.
they're gonna pave it, put one-way signs in or something after they got all this fancy pavement done, I think it becomes applicable then. But no signs are going in for traffic direction or anything, is there?
Nope.
Other than those arrows there.
you can only leave, you can't come back. Location and dimensions of any easements and copies of existing covenants or deed restrictions, there are none. Jeff Young, you didn't see any, did you?
No,
Okay. Indication of water supply sufficient in quantity and quality for both normal use and fire protection. I don't think it's really applicable. Anybody disagree?
Nope.
Estimated demand for water supply and sewage disposal, together with the location and dimensions of all water supply and wastewater disposal, evidence of their adequacy for the proposed use, including soils test pit data if on-site sewage disposal is proposed. Not going to bury a septic tank in here, right, Jesse? So I think we're all set.
Nope.
There, not applicable. The direction of proposed surface water drainage across the site and from the site with assessments on impact on downstream properties. And this is where I think
Yeah, I think that I
my
would,
concerns come in.
yeah, let's call this one incomplete at this point. And we might ask for more information. We might be able to approve this, move to the next phase pending something, but
That's why we have Greg coming, isn't it? To look,
We don't have Greg yet. He
no,
has to
but-
be asked.
okay, that's true.
Provisions for handling solid waste, including hazardous and special waste, and location and proposed screening of any on-site collection of or storage facilities. I put a question mark here because is the salt a hazardous material or a special waste?
I don't think it falls under the criteria for that from the state as a
Okay.
hazardous or special waste.
Board, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Location, dimensions, and materials to be used in the construction of proposed driveways, parking, and loading areas and walkways. Any changes in traffic flow onto or off site. We have some of that in the Dugas contract, correct?
Yep.
So I think we're all set there. Proposed landscaping and buffering. There is none, so it's not applicable. Location, dimensions, and ground floor elevations of all proposed buildings or building expansion proposed on the site. This is not applicable, but you do have all the dimensions, right?
Of existing, this one's for proposed.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So not applicable. Location, front view, materials, and dimensions of proposed signs together with a method for securing the sign. As you said, there's no sign proposed. Gee, you know, if that nice new driveway, aren't you gonna put up a big sign? Welcome to the Tremont Town Office or something?
Not yet.
Okay, okay. That'll be one of your first acts as town manager, correct? Location and type of exterior lighting. No lights along the driveway? Okay. None proposed, so not applicable. Location of all utilities, including fire protection, none proposed. General description of proposed use of act or activity on application. I think we're all set there. Estimate of the peak hour and daily traffic to be generated by the project. No change. What do you think, folks?
I don't see any change.
I
Okay,
don't see
Okay.
it either.
I don't think it's going to become a hot spot to go to suddenly.
wait till that driveway gets paved.
I know Josie and I are gonna,
Be
start
like
with
a
them for
racetrack.
dates. We're gonna start doing donuts in the town lot.
Then
They,
go
they
across
do
the
have security cameras, by the way, Lawson.
That's fine. I'll just wave and say, "Hi, Jesse."
Stormwater calculations, erosion and sedimentation control measures, and water quality and or phosphorus export management provisions if the project requires a stormwater permit from the DEP or if the planning board determines that such information is necessary. And we did have a letter from the DEP saying it doesn't require a DEP permit,
Right.
but that doesn't absolve the applicant from meeting stormwater runoff, right? Which we've talked about a little bit.
Correct.
And this, again, I think goes to getting Greg to take a quick look at it. Would you agree, Jesse?
Yep.
You okay with that? What do you think, folks?
Yeah, I feel like, right, that's the last one, almost. Yeah. So it seems to me like it makes sense to find this complete on the condition of, or with on the condition of sort of more information about stormwater management. And I think that if we're specific about what exactly we're asking about, that will help the applicant
Yep.
provide that at the next phase and help us review it at the next phase.
Yep.
Okay, last one then, I guess, right? Approval block. Did I skip anything? I don't think so. No.
On the front, first
What's
book.
that? What's that?
It's on the first plan. One on the front page.
What approval block? Oh, okay, yep. Let's take a second to discuss finding this application complete with conditions. We said that. I thought we were, it had been advised not to do that.
I think it depends on how many or what they are. And you have done it in the past when it was one or two
It
items.
also seems like it's okay to do, well, I don't know if it's okay. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems useful if we're able to identify very specific, like measurable conditions. And that if at the public hearing or at the next review, those conditions haven't been met, then we can't move forward.
Right.
Trying to find the correct spot here in the ordinance. I don't see anything in Article 7B, which is application submission and review procedures, saying we can find something complete with conditions. And I'm concerned that we're treading on thin ice if we do that. We've had some applications we found incomplete. And we've never, I can't, Jesse, can you recall anything we found incomplete with conditions? Or found complete with conditions, I should say.
Yeah, Hanson's Dairy Bar. They needed to add a driveway and like I think there's two things they need to add. And I think you've done it once or twice on the subdivision, adding a wetland or something like that to the plan.
What are the conditions that we're holding out? You have to look.
Pardon?
I think it's really a stormwater. I mean, I think I would cite paragraph 8.4.b is the sort of stormwater across the site and assessment of impact on downstream properties.
Jesse, does it impact the town if we want you to come back and complete it if we don't do it with conditions?
It impacts it if you don't schedule the public hearing.
Can we schedule a public hearing before we found this complete?
So we could call for a special quick meeting If we found this incomplete, we could maybe have a schedule, a quick meeting and find it complete. When
Or
Jesse,
what if we found it incomplete, and scheduled a public hearing for whatever we can schedule a public hearing for?
I don't think you can schedule a public hearing for an incomplete application.
Okay,
I don't want to start setting precedents of special meetings for these applications.
good, right.
We're meeting the 22nd, we know that.
Yes.
Do we know if the campground is still on, are they still planning? Do we know anything about the Acadia Woods campground for the 22nd?
I've heard that they want to postpone again, but
You
not
haven't heard
officially
anything?
from them. No.
We don't know how full that agenda is yet.
Nope.
But we could, this wouldn't take time, much time to find complete at that point. How does that affect the schedule, Jesse,
No, if you're just going to find it complete that night,
that night?
it would.
And- And then we schedule the public hearing for, is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that?
What is it, within 30 days, I think?
It would push the public hearing to July 27th.
And
Which we
how
have a
does that
meeting.
affect the actual, like, when you want to be paving?
I'm not sure. They've been saying anytime in June. I'm sure it could bump into July. I'm not sure. They haven't given us a definite start.
So even, so it's possible that they're going to show up and start doing this before there's a permit?
The road work, they wouldn't start here without a
Okay.
permit, but they have 3 roads to work on.
How long would that take?
I'm not sure how long they have scheduled, but
I'm not opposed, despite what, I know, Jeff, you're against it, but I'm not opposed to scheduling a meeting before the 27th.
my only concern with scheduling another meeting is we have to get the answer from Greg. And I don't know what his
Right,
was.
right. I think that we should find this incomplete and ask for stormwater calculations. And I wrote down I don't know, 3 or 4 bullet points to ask for, and then if the town can, if the applicant can get that back to us by the 22nd, great. Then we find it complete and we schedule the public hearing and
Right.
we move forward. But in terms of, I think it makes sense for us to try to do what we can to support the applicant when we can, but to not change our procedures egregiously or, too much.
I think that's a wise way to go.
And I'll acknowledge that that's different than what I said 10 minutes ago. So we are learning and changing.
We can all change our minds from
That's
time
right.
to time.
So why don't I try with a motion and
Okay.
and then we can always discuss the motion. But does that make sense? Or does anybody want to chime in before we make a motion? Before I make a motion?
No, go ahead.
Well, quickly, let's see. What I marked down was 8.4B, 8.3I, which was direction of existing surface water drainage across the site. Although we did find those arrows.
Right. So I think that I'm going to just focus on paragraph 8.4.b, but include the arrow, like labeling the arrows.
Mhm.
I'm also going to include the scale or comment about the scale, because it's hard for us to understand what
Mhm.
we're looking at with the scales being inconsistent. And then assessment of impact on downstream properties. So like, we want to know the direction of surface runoff, not only where the pavement is, but also all on site. And I would even go as far as to say, like, we're asking Greg to give us some information about the stormwater runoff as it makes its way all the way to the marsh, assuming it ends there, or if it doesn't go to the marsh, where does it go? Since we're so close to it. And then the other piece that I was going to ask for is best management practices for salt shed runoff. That I think that it would be useful for us to have an engineer either say, yeah, you need a separate containment system for this or not. And since there's not one proposed, I'm hoping that he confirms that we don't need one. But if every other salt shed has containment systems, then we should know that. And so,
How
Yep.
about 8.4L? Stormwater calculations? Did you want to include that as well? I don't think, we don't need
it
in
didn't,
my opinion, we don't need a full-blown engineering study of this, right?
I don't
have
think
some-
so. I guess it's possible that Greg will come back and say, oh yeah, there's a big problem. And if we, and it's much more complicated than we thought. And at that point I might say, oh, well then, yeah, let's do a full calculations.
Okay,
But I think assuming that the system is as simple as it is, which is like, well, it goes to the catch basin or the storm drains, goes to the ditch, goes in the ocean, and such environmental, agency, the DEP has said that it's okay for all that salt water to go into the ocean.
Yep.
Or it's going into the groundwater, and that's okay too, although that seems unlikely, but let's let Greg tell us that.
okay, well, Lawson, you think you can make a motion to that effect?
I think so. We'll see. I make a motion that we find the application for the town of Tremont paving project. What is this thing called?
Paving project's fine, I think.
Town of Tremont paving project. The application to be incomplete. Citing paragraph 8.4.b. And we ask for the following 5 conditions to be resubmitted to address the scale bar inconsistencies, to label drainage arrows, to identify the direction of surface runoff for on-site, as well as the existing drainage ditch. The 4th is to assess the impact on downstream properties, including the marsh. And the 5th is to provide the planning board with best management practices for salt shed runoff.
Do we need to include anything about Greg in that motion, you think, Jesse?
I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't think so either, but,
I'll second the motion.
okay.
I didn't want to leave Lawson hanging there, that he wouldn't get a second.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Jeff.
We like to keep him on his toes there, Jeff. Okay, we have a motion on the table to find, I'll try my best to reconstruct this. Find the application for the town of Tremont's paving project incomplete, citing 8.4b and asking for 5 conditions, opinions on 5 conditions, or asking for 5 conditions to be met. Address the scale inconsistencies, the drainage arrows, the direction of the surface runoff, assess the impact of downstream properties, including the marsh, and to provide the planning board with best management practices regarding salt and sand sheds. Is that close enough?
Nailed it.
Okay, great, thank you. All in favor Marjorie,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
myself, yes. 4-0. Sorry, Jesse, that's probably not what you wanted, but
Oh, that's fine.
we'll make it work.
Well, I do feel that given the issues of groundwater there for local residents and runoff, I think it was much better we handle it this way than do a conditional approval.
Too, and considering the Seal Cove Auto Museum, which is sort of a pretty similar project that we found incomplete and asked to come back with a handful of things, it seems good to be consistent.
I agree. That was my concern.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, folks. We'll move on to CEO issues. Site plan review ordinance discussion. Jesse?
Yes.
Balls in the court here.
So this was originally put on the agenda to discuss where the site plan review ordinance was passed over at town meeting. There are obviously changes to it that you wanted to make. And so I wanted you guys to have a discussion as to if you wanted to propose this going before voters at the November election. If so, do you want to submit it as is, or do you want to make any last minute changes that may have come up between now and then?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
how do you define last minute? Do we have time to let this sink in, or you need a decision tonight?
No, I don't need a decision tonight. In order to meet the deadlines for having ballots ready and your public hearings and select board public hearings, you would need to hold a public hearing on July 27th. So you would have to make a decision on any changes at your next meeting. You'd have to make a decision on scheduling a public hearing at your next meeting. And then-
And we schedule the public hearing, or does the select board schedule the public hearing?
both,
Both. And
Yep.
are there two separate public hearings?
yes,
That was the problem. The selectmen did not hold
correct.
Right.
public hearing on this
The
for
last,
the May town meeting. And
And
that's
we
why
did one
we're
on
dealing
both.
with it now.
Yeah,
What's
I
that?
see. And we did, our public hearing was for both land use ordinance and site plan
Correct.
review. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
correct.
At the very minimum, I think we should certainly have the first, what got passed over, put up and move forward.
Right.
Whether we have time to start digesting other issues is a whole nother issue.
I talked to Jesse briefly about, I think the goal eventually is to move the site plan review ordinance back into the LUO where it was originally, before all these problems with it arose, right? And I asked Jesse, can we do that? Get the town attorney or someone to deal with that and get it ready in time for the public hearing. And he didn't think that would be possible. You still feel that way, Jesse?
I did talk to Chris about it today. He seemed to think it wouldn't be that much work for James to combine them. But I haven't had a chance to reach out to James yet to verify his opinion.
I guess I feel like, and I guess I'm putting my comprehensive plan hat on a little bit, thinking that in a year or two or three, there might be more substantive changes to the content. I don't want to wait that long to address the sort of the separation. And if we could merge the two documents now, it would make revising the ordinance, whenever it is we do that, a lot more straightforward. If we're, changing, I don't know whatever it is that is changing, if it's changing in one document, I think that would make a lot of sense. So I guess my recommendation or a request would be, yeah, let's try to get rid of the site plan, or not get rid of, but like fold it in without changing any substantive content. We're not, rezoning anything right now or changing permitted uses, but we're making it a lot easier to understand the regulations of
The alternative is to proceed with the Band-Aid approach But what, and then we have to come back at a later date and then do what we're talking about now. I say
Right.
do it if we can. So Jesse, could you talk to
Yeah.
James about that?
Yep, I'll talk to James tomorrow.
Okay. And just, you need a motion or something, and if he can do it, let's have him do it.
Yeah,
You want a
And then
motion?
at our June 22nd meeting, we could then decide to call a special, schedule a public hearing. Not
Yeah.
special, but a sort of public hearing. Okay, cool.
Mark, should we squeeze in another planning board meeting? Or can we get this all done? With what we have on the docket there?
That's a good question. I don't know.
you have, right now you'd have 3 total meetings. You'd have June 22nd, July 13th, and then the 27th. You could make, if you made changes on the 27th, you'd have 2 options. You'd either have to tell me to make the changes and expect that I did without seeing it one final time. Or if the meeting was here in person, I could come upstairs and physically make the changes and bring them back down. If you had changes on the 27th after the public hearing closed.
Well, if we're just talking about putting the site plan review ordinance back into the LUO.
Yep.
As it is, the change, with the changes we made back in February, I think it was, correct?
Correct.
I don't see where, we'd have plenty of time. I don't see where the problem.
There
would
shouldn't be
lie,
that
is
many
we wanna
changes.
make additional changes along with that.
Right.
So that's a question for the board.
Which is a question for the board.
Do we want to make further changes to the site plan review ordinance
Or the land
in
use.
addition to the ones that we already made back in February?
I can say for myself, I wouldn't be able to answer that tonight because, I haven't given it thought as to, or looked at the ordinances with that in mind. So I'm not prepared to answer that.
Okay, does everybody still have copies of that site plan review ordinance with the changes?
Well, that I'm fine. What we did previously, I'm fine with. I'm talking about further changes.
No, I understand. I just mean as a reference to look at for deciding further changes. If you're looking at the old site plan review ordinance, there might be changes that were made that you've forgotten about. I don't know. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Mhm.
No?
No,
Okay.
I'm not sure we're opening a can of worms at the moment versus just getting ourselves a little bit in order, our ducks in order before we tackle the bigger issue and start wrestling with other issues that one of us or all of us see in the ordinances.
Okay, so we'll have Jesse talk to James about adding that in. Hopefully he'll have time. In the meantime, we can be thinking about any additional changes we may want to make and discuss those at our next meeting, right? Does that sound okay? And then we still have until the 27th to actually schedule the public hearing, which is when we basically have to have any proposed changes finalized.
Wait, I thought we had to have the public hearing on the 27th.
No.
Yes.
Oh, we
Yeah.
do? Oh, okay.
You have to schedule it at your next meeting. The 22nd.
Schedule on the 22nd, okay, because, for notification.
Yep.
But we don't have to have it, the changes
Complete.
complete until the public hearing.
Correct.
So we could even schedule a regular meeting before the public hearing, take it out of order, if it came down to that, to look at and approve any changes we made, correct?
Well, you have one July 13th.
Yeah, we have that, but I'm just
Yeah.
thinking worst
Yeah.
case scenario.
Yep.
Does that sound good to people?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot. Did you want a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Somebody want to make
Oh.
that motion?
I guess I move to ask the CEO to ask the town attorney to prepare the site plan review ordinance, or prepare to incorporate the site plan review ordinance into the land use ordinance. With the goal of having it before voters by November.
Second.
Okay, motion is second on the table to have this code enforcement officer ask the town attorney to incorporate the site plan review ordinance into the land use ordinance and have it ready for voter approval in November. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. Marjorie,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
myself, yes, 4-0. All done with that, we'll move on. Follow up from a select board meeting last night regarding the campground moratorium. Jesse, you want to speak or do you want me to?
I can start. So the select board was not inclined to enact a moratorium at this time. They would prefer the planning board focus on making changes to the ordinance that they felt was necessary regarding campgrounds. And if you can get that done with the timeline for November, put it out to vote in November, or work on it for May for town meeting next year.
Which raises the question, can we make those changes in time for that public hearing on the 27th again, correct?
Right, so currently, the select board only has one meeting in August, which is August 2nd, which is why your timeline is tighter. However, if you feel that you can get the campground issues resolved, they were willing to schedule an additional select board meeting in August, which would buy the planning board roughly an extra month. So they were just waiting for you guys to discuss tonight if that was something you wanted to do and shoot for November and felt
And-
could do, that they would
and-
be willing to do that.
And they suggested we could hold additional meetings to get that done.
Yes, they did.
Did they define what the campground issues are?
I don't
No,
think
they gave,
this-
they really didn't give any reason for saying no, other than it could open a can of worms, and I did not specifically ask them what those worms were. They were just, as Jesse said, disinclined to approve a moratorium.
Right, but it sounds like they then suggested that the planning board resolve the issues.
I was asked by a selectman whether we could work on possible changes and get it in time to be on the warrant for the November meeting.
Okay.
And that's when we brought into play the fact that there are deadlines here for public hearing and that sort of thing.
Right,
We also, as a board, we have a pretty full schedule.
right.
Applications, some very weighty applications ahead of us. Public hearing, lengthy public hearing we're facing, and other things. There's two options. We could try to get something done and rush to get something done like we had to do in February and get it on, hopefully get it on the warrant, or we can wait and go to either the May town meeting, or maybe selectmen would be inclined to hold a special town meeting at some point, but I don't think so. I mean, there is, well, never mind.
Boy, that's a lot of stuff on our plate to get accomplished.
Yeah. I think if I could add, I think to Lawson's point, if you already had a set list of changes that you wanted to consider, it would make it possible or more possible to meet these deadlines. But whereas you've kind of just identified that there's an issue with approving campgrounds potentially, but you haven't identified what changes you want to make, I think it would be difficult to meet the time frame for a November vote. Just my personal opinion.
I tend to agree.
Me too.
Should we, do we have enough time to put this issue on our next meeting? To at least-
Agenda?
Do we have enough time to put this on our next meeting to see if any of us come forward with, some, blatant out there problems? And at least look at it a little bit, whether we limit what we consider the size of campground or some other change of that nature.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, then we do. And then, we were just talking about the site plan review ordinance. And I think that if on the 22nd, any one of us comes with a recommendation or an idea or a brainstorm,
Right.
maybe it's, maybe it would address all of the issues, or maybe more likely it would address one or two of the issues. I don't even know. Yeah, because we don't know what all the issues are. But
Well, having nothing to do with present campground applications before us, certainly in our area of the world in which we live, and I'm not referring necessarily to MDI, but right around us, there are a lot of campgrounds going in. And there are some elsewhere on MDI. And so it is a popular thing that's moving forward, and our town's not really equipped to handle what's going on there. Our ordinances are too loose for us to be able to address some of the movement in this direction. The world's changed around us and we haven't changed, is what I'm saying.
How about this? Let's put on our thinking caps and try to come up with some ideas and put it on the agenda for that 22nd meeting and go from there. Does that make sense with folks?
Yes.
yes,
I think we need to.
Yep. And, I don't know. Anyway, Jesse, you want a motion to that effect, or we'll just talk about it and you put it on the agenda? Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. Anything else about that?
I guess I was not at the meeting last night. Was there any other sort of discussion either from the public or other comments that would help us help direct us in the next 2 weeks as we put on our thinking caps?
No, it was
Not
me
from
and
the
me
meeting,
and
no.
Selectmen.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for representing the planning board, Mark.
I love having a target on my back, Lawson. Okay, we don't know whether that public hearing is going to be postponed again or not, do we? Okay,
Still scheduled for the 22nd.
okay.
And sorry, is that at 5?
Yes.
Just want to make sure that my calendar is up to date.
Yeah.
At 5 by
Glad you
Zoom.
mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah. I had a moment today at 5:45, afraid that today was the time when our meeting started early, but
Brett never did show up.
No, he just emailed. Said something came up without warning and he couldn't make it.
So you want to make a motion, somebody want to make a motion to excuse his absence then?
I move that we excuse
I know
Is
it's out of
that-
order, it's out of order, but
Yes,
Go ahead.
it is out of order, but yes,
so you have you made a motion to excuse
Yeah.
Brett.
Brett,
Okay. Have a second?
Second,
Motion second on the table to excuse Brett's absence from the meeting tonight. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, Marjorie,
yes,
Jeff,
Yes,
Lawson,
yes.
and mark me down as yes as well. Thank you. Any other comments from anybody? Otherwise, we'll set the date for the next meeting, June 22nd at 5 o'clock by Zoom.
So moved. Second,
Did I hear a
Second.
second? Sorry.
yeah, Jeff moved, I seconded.
Okay, motion is second on the table to set the date for the next meeting at 5 o'clock, June 22nd by Zoom. All in favor, Marjorie,
yes.
Jeff,
yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
myself, yes. Okay, Marjorie, here you go. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move. We adjourn.
I'll
Have a
second. Second,
Okay, motion is second on the table to
That's a
adjourn.
wrap.
All in favor, Marjorie,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Lawson,
yes.
myself, yes. Okay, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
See you around.
that's a wrap.
You're around.